You entered a plea of no contest to count 1 and count 2. The court found that there was
Quick legal breakdown. A no contest plea basically means the defendant isn't admitting guilt, but isn't fighting the charges either. In the eyes of the court, it has the same effect as pleading guilty, except it can't be used against you in certain civil lawsuits. So, it's kind of like saying, I'm not fighting this, but I'm not outright confessing either.
evidence to find you guilty of count 1 and count 2. The court found you guilty of count 1 and count 2. According to your plea bargain agreement, counts 1 and counts 2 will run concurrently, and you will be sentenced to 20 years.
20 years. Let that sink in. At just 18 years old, this sentence means the defendant will spend the rest of his youth and much of his adulthood behind bars. That's not just time. That's an entire life chapter being erased.
In the prison, give you credit for any time served. This is to run concurrent with 2024 CR 5218. Take in consideration 2025 CC 005805. Is there anything else with regards to sentencing and that cause number?
Sentencing of law.
Okay. And just one moment. Also, there is to be no contact with the following persons: Sarah, SAARAHAMIN is the last name. Tariq, TAREK, last name RAMADAN. All right, and that cause number, did you review the document entitled Trial Court Certification? I'm sorry, one other thing.
Here's a critical detail. An affirmative finding of a deadly weapon enhances the seriousness of conviction. Translation: it doesn't just sound bad. It can limit parole eligibility and affect prison classification. In plain English, this defendant's time inside just got a lot harder.
In regards to sentencing, there's an affirmative finding of deadly weapon in count 1 and an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon in count 2. In that cause number, did you review the document entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal with your attorney? Did you understand it and sign it? All right, because this is a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, and because you waive your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Because this is a felony conviction, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. If you have a question over what a weapon or ammunition is, you'll need to speak to an attorney. Do you understand? Do you have any type of drug issues? Okay. And then in cause number 2024 CR 5218, you entered a plea of no contest to count 1, murder. The court found that there was sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and the court found you guilty. The court will sentence you to 20 years in the prison, give you credit for any time served. This is run concurrent with 2024 CR 5219, and taking consideration 2025 CC 005805. And there's an affirmative finding of deadly weapon. All right, did you review the document entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal with your attorney? Did you understand it and did you sign it? Now you need to speak up. All right, because this is a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, and because you waive your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Because this is felony conviction, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. If you have a question over what a weapon or ammunition is, you'll need to speak to an attorney. Do you understand?
18. Barely an adult. This is the kind of detail that makes you pause. On one hand, he's legally responsible. On the other, we're talking about someone who just stepped out of childhood. It's a harsh reminder of how one reckless decision can permanently alter the course of a life.
All right, we can go off the record. How old are you? All right, you're 18. Any time that somebody serves is a lot of time. Many things can happen at the prison. Do not become institutionalized at the prison. You need to realize that you're where you are now because of your actions. I understand with the murder case, the way it's charged, which is legally a way it can be charged, because you were evading, you actually didn't hit the person in the crosswalk. The police actually hit that person chasing you, right? And so when you're sitting at the prison, you're probably going to start thinking, I shouldn't be here. Other people are going to start talking to you saying, you should have done this and that. But what I can tell you, that's the law, right? So at the prison, you can still get your education. At the prison, you can get some kind of trade so that when you're released from prison, you have some ability to get work. And it's going to be hard for you to find employment because you've been to prison. That's why you need to learn a trade at the prison. I don't know if they still do welding at the prison or not. I had one client who went to prison. He ended up becoming a welder. And there was such a high demand for welders, even though he had been to prison. When he was released, he ended up making more money than I made as an attorney. All right. So there's something you can do with your life, but you need to start thinking about the people you hang around with and how you find yourself to be in the situation that you're in. You understand? So there are two people who are going to be speaking to you, and this is called a victim.
And now, we enter one of the most emotional parts of any sentencing, the victim impact statements. This is where the law meets raw humanity. Family members step forward, not as lawyers or judges, but as people whose lives have been shattered. Buckle up. This is where the case stops being about charges and statutes and becomes about heartbreak.
Victim impact. So they're going to tell you probably how this has impacted their life. I want you to listen and internalize what they're saying, okay? All right. Watson and Simmons. Let me see if we can get them. Would you call them, please? Because they're in the, here they are.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, you can show your video if you want to show your video, but you don't have to show your video. Are you able to see Mr. Camarillo?
Yes.
All right. If you want to show your video, you can. If you do not, you don't have to. And you can begin whenever you're ready to begin.
Did you catch that? The family calls out the leniency of the plea deal. This is huge. To them, 20 years isn't justice, it's mercy. And that tension between legal outcomes and emotional justice is one of the most debated issues in criminal law.
Okay. So my name is, I'm the eldest daughter of India Watson. She was one of the victims. She was the victim that actually lost her life, a pedestrian crossing the street. My mom was only 47 years old, with 3 kids under the age of 30 and 12 grandchildren at the time. When I received a call of her death, I was 34 weeks pregnant and my sister was about 26 weeks pregnant. She never had an opportunity to meet those babies. She would never get to see her grandchildren graduate from college. She would never be able to attend my siblings' weddings when those times happen in the future. This has been extremely traumatizing on our family to not only lose her so suddenly, but in the manner she was killed. Some of the family had to witness video footage of the accident. Law enforcement was going so fast on the night she was killed that my mom was hit at a fast rate where her body flew into the air before it landed on the ground. At the funeral, her face had to be reconstructed for us to have an open casket. She had to be fully clothed with gloves. Ears cannot be shown. The woman who raised me that I knew to be my mom, I didn't see that woman physically. She was unrecognizable. While I understand you were not driving a vehicle that collided with my mom, you have a role. The actions you played and the things that you did throughout the day contributed greatly to her death. It is difficult to accept that one day you will walk free and have the opportunity to make new memories with your loved ones. Meanwhile, we are left to pick up the pieces of a family torn apart. There is no sentence that can restore what we've lost. We live with the consequences of your actions every single day. The leniency of your plea deal does not reflect the magnitude of the harm you caused. My hope is that you will use the time not just to serve a sentence, but to reflect and grow into someone who values life and considers the pain and reckless choices that you can put on others. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Ms. Simmons,
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning.
good morning. You may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I am the maternal sister of Andrea Watson, and she was the youngest of my mother's 6 children. We certainly did not expect to bury our baby sister at the tender age of 47. There are 5 of us remaining. Andrea had a very large extended family, and she was loved and her life was valued. So it's a great loss to our family. And certainly, as my niece just explained, she had 3 young adult children and now 14 grandchildren. So we have a lot that she left us. But at the same time, those children will not have a grandmother that they can share memories with going forward. Um, this was an unnecessary occurrence. It was an accident, but unnecessary. And I do hope that going forward, this is something that you will think about as you'll have time to visit in prison and think about the impact that you had on a lot of people in our family, certainly. I was very intimately involved in her funeral proceedings. Um, so it was extremely difficult for me. Had a lot of emotional and psychological impact, of which I'm in therapy for. And I encourage all of my family to do the same because we have been in great pain for over a year now, and we're still suffering from the loss of our loved one. So it continues to be a difficult situation. The wounds are reopened each time I revisit the details surrounding her death, and there have been many instances since the funeral that we've had to go through writing statements and other things to try to clarify and close out uh, what has happened here. So, with all that being said, I just pray that justice will be served, and that at some point there will be some light that comes out of this dark, dark space that we were thrust into with the loss of my sister. Thank you, Yana.
Thank you so very much.